Good, good. For those of you that aren't loving pair programming, you got 2 weeks to learn to love it. I'm serious. We will not let you into the immersive program unless you love pair programming. You will fail. You absolutely fail. We will not be able to graduate you as a software engineer. So, dig deep. Channel your inner growth mindset. There we go. All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about fixed versus growth mindset. Does anybody has anybody heard those terms? Fixed mindset, growth mindset. Does anybody know Carol Dweck? She's the one that popularized, she wrote a book called Mindset, of which your brother had read before he came to the program.
Yeah, he gave me actually the audio. I still didn't listen to it.
So it's in the book she describes kind of two ways of thinking. We're going to kind of go through that right now because it's really critical to, I think, your success in the program. That you, at least if you're fixed mindset, suspend disbelief. In other words, try for one day to live growth mindset and see what happens. So, start. So, we have fixed mindset people, we have growth mindset people, but there's a sort of a spectrum, right? You can be here, you can be here, you kind of be somewhere in the middle. Ultimately, we want to try to get you as far growth mindset as we can. So, if you are fixed mindset, your default assumption, in other words, your basic belief, is that your intelligence is fixed. In other words, you were born with a certain amount of general intelligence, say IQ, and that's not going to change. If your IQ is 105 when you were born, your belief is that you cannot change it. It's not going to be 106, it's not going to be 107. But there's certain fixed attributes. If you can't play, if you're not a naturally good musician, you'll never be. If you're not good at math, you'll never be. And there's different types of intelligences. There's social intelligence, math intelligence, general intelligence. And people with fixed mindset believe that those are all fixed. If my social intelligence or emotional intelligence is X, it's never going to be X plus 1. If you are, so life's mission then, knowing that you can increase your intelligence, is to sort of represent yourself as good as possible. So these folks, fixed mindset folks, spend a lot of time covering up their flaws, covering up their mistakes, right? We'll see how that happens in a minute. If you are growth mindset, your default assumption or your sort of natural way of thinking about things is that you have the ability to change your intelligence. That's not fixed. That you can increase it. And that growth is part of that process, and it's fun. You welcome failure. And it's really synonymous, or it means becoming better. When you're failing, you're getting better. So two different, very different ideas about how to go through the world. Failing for someone, so for fixed mindset people, failing is revealing what's wrong with them in a way that's terrible. For growth mindset people, it's the opposite. Failing is like taking a step forward. It's about discovery, getting closer to their destination. Does everybody understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. I got a question. All right, so these two people have very different reactions to stimulus, to events in their careers, in their life, their daily life. So if you are fixed mindset, you're generally pretty conservative. In other words, you don't move a lot. You stay put, you keep your head down, right? You're not the kind of person that's sitting on the front of the class doing that. You're really cautious about doing something stupid. You're really concerned about how others see you. You'll lie to maintain appearances, right? You'll play up or promote anything that you did that was cool, right? You're the type of person that
needs attention.
yeah, well, you're a little insecure. So when you do something that's good, you're like broadcasting it on your Facebook page, you're broadcasting it on your Instagram page. Some cases you take credit for others' work. Oh yeah, that was all me. And often you blame other people for your own failure. Again, that's covering up. Growth mindset behavior, a little different. You sort of start with the understanding and the premise that it's natural, it's organic, not to understand everything. That there's a lot of knowledge in the world, and that we know kind of like that much. And the older we get, the more we realize, the less we know. And they have no problem saying, I don't know. Let me get back to you on that one. They're not threatened by the belief that their intelligence is limited. It's like, I don't know. So they did this great study. I think it was Stanford again. Talked about the marshmallow test. So what they did is they did a bunch of 5-year-olds, right? And they had like a waste basket, right? Did I tell this story before?
No.
I'm having a major deja vu here. So they had this waste basket, right? And they wadded up some paper, and they gave it to the 5-year-old, and they said, okay, stand right here. So the waste basket's like 1 meter away. They said, stand right here and throw the wad of paper into the waste basket. And they made it, and all the kids did that, and then they asked them the next round to step back about a half a meter. And they all did it. And this went on until most of the kids were missing the basket. Right? And they're 3 or 4 meters away and they're missing. So the researchers said, thank you guys, you're awesome. They gave a piece of candy to all the kids. And as the kids were getting ready to leave, they said, oh wait, I got one more. One more. Here's a lot of paper. You can make the basket any way you want. Any way you want. So there were 2 groups. First group came up, they spun around, in between the legs, boom, boom, right on top of the basket. That was the first group. The second group went to the place where they missed the shot and tried it again. Can you guess which group were growth mindset and which were fixed mindset?
The second. The first one.
The second one was what? Growth or fixed? Who's saying fixed?
It's supposed to be growth because they tried to move us. No, it's growth. It's really both of them.
How are they fixed mindset?
Because they feel not the growth. They want to keep trying to get it.
Because they tried the same thing again and they did not think of something else that could help them.
But they were challenging themselves.
Yeah.
They were pushing themselves beyond what they knew they could do. They knew they could run up there and dunk it. There was no challenge there.
also, they're not afraid of maybe missing it again in front of everyone.
Right. They weren't afraid of failure. So yes, the second group, the ones that went back to the line, they were growth mindset. And again, like in the marshmallow test, like deferred gratification, they tracked these kids for 14, 15 years. And they found that the growth mindset ones, the ones who had stepped back, try to make that long shot, were more successful. So there was a correlation with mindset and success, academic success, professional success, success in relationships, that sort of thing. So this is kind of a diagram. On the one side, we have sort of growth mindset, and on the other side, fixed mindset, and how they might respond to the same stimulus, respond to the same event. I can learn anything I want to. I'm either good at it, or I'm not. I can either learn to play the oud, or just not good at it. I'm never going to learn to be good at the oud. When I'm frustrated, I persevere. Does anybody know what that word means? Persevere.
Persevere.
Keep trying.
Keep trying. Get knocked down
Get back
10 times. Get up 11. When I'm frustrated, I give up. I want to challenge myself, so I'm not competing against you. I'm competing against myself. I don't like to be challenged. When I fail, I learn. When I fail, I'm no good. Society judges me. I brought shame onto my family. Tell me I try hard. Tell me I'm smart. Right? See how that's reinforcing? Like the worst thing, you guys are all going to be parents someday, right? The worst thing you can say to your kid is that was brilliant. That's reinforcing fixed mindset. Right? It's saying that your brain is sort of set, and that's why you were able to do that. You say, good work. Congratulations, that was a job well done. That's growth mindset. If you succeed, I'm inspired. The Sanskrit term is mudita. I'm happy that you're happy. If you succeed, I feel threatened. Right? You're challenging me. It's all about me. And finally, my effort and attitude determine everything versus my abilities, or the sort of state of my brain determines everything. Now, that said, there have been some very, very successful people in life who have been fixed mindset. They're rare, but they do exist. What kinds of people need to have a growth mindset?
I think selfish people.
Selfish people? So it helps them to sort of overcome their selfishness?
Yeah, I think selfish people that doesn't do something or try to something. It just show off, like honest show off.
Okay. So in terms of professions,
Yeah.
what think about the different jobs out there. You're a car mechanic, you're a teacher. What kinds of professions need to have growth mindset?
Doctors, medical.
Doctors, medical, right? Because they kind of think of,
Teachers.
teachers.
Software engineers.
Yes.
Who said software engineer?
Gotcha.
What else?
Any field that requires you to learn as the field progresses. So any changing field.
Okay. So professions that are in flux.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Any company that has like team leaders or any like above people.
Managers.
Yes.
Managers need to have growth mindset. How about the creative professions? Artists, comedians.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Artists?
It depends on the field itself, actually. How fast it's growing in the world.
No, I think artists don't need a growth mindset.
Yeah, artists don't need it.
Do they?
Yes, they have to be very growth mindset because they're constantly having to put new things together.
Yeah, exactly.
They're constantly, to stay valid, to stay contemporary, to stay competitive with the other artists, they have to put together ideas or dots that haven't been connected yet. And they have to believe that they can do that. They have to believe that they can create something out of nothing. They have to, and that's ultimately what, another way that separates the fixed mindset from the growth mindset people. The fixed mindset people think, you know, there's only 1,642 possibilities this brain can produce. That's fixed. Whereas the growth mindset people believe that it's infinite.
What about the players?
About what?
Players.
Players?
Like basketball player or football player?
To some degree, yes. Yes. I mean, it's a dynamic profession. The moves are changing. The kids are getting better. Entrepreneurs, startup people, founders, innovators. See why?
Yeah.
Some of you guys want to have your own startup someday, yeah?
I'm confused. Is it a negative thing to have a fixed mindset if people got successful out of it?
So there have been successful people.
Right.
They're very, very rare. And they struggled.
Right.
And the argument can be made that they would have been much more successful
If
had they been growth mindset because they hadn't had these barriers. They hadn't had these self-imposed limitations.
right.
They were sandbagging themselves. They were putting sandbags on their shoulders. They were trying to run the race.
Right.
So it is possible, if you're very, very stubborn, you can achieve success. But it's much easier with this particular mindset. Somebody mentioned teachers, learners, which is what you guys are right now. You're both learning to teach and learn at the same time. Ideally 50-50.
Yeah.
Programmers. Programming is a long series of failures punctuated by very, very, very brief moments of success.
That's true.
All right?
Yes.
You gotta love that. You gotta have a growth mindset to do that. You're getting knocked down 1,000 times.
Each error comes out other errors.
Right. So if you're not growth mindset, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. So I usually do this. I usually ask everybody whose default mindset is growth to raise your left hand. But I'm not going to call anybody out. In the past, we've surveyed cohorts, and like a third of the cohort would raise their hand. Fixed mindset. Fixed mindset. We get that. We totally get that. Given the culture, given the pressures, given your education system, fixed mindset is largely the default. So what we do is we ask these young men and women to, just for one day, believe that you can increase your intelligence. Just for one day, accept that failure might be kind of cool. Sort of cast off this fear, if you will, of somebody judging you because you failed. And see what happens. And of that group, say there's 10 people that raise their hand, 5 people by the following week, so they tried it the next day, and they're like, oh, that wasn't so bad. And then they go, I'll give it another day, and they try it again. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already starting to see some gains. I'm already starting to see some rewards. Third day, they try it, and it's like, okay. Usually by a week, half of those 10 people have flipped to growth mindset. Just in a week. For their whole lives, for 25 years, they've been fixed mindset, and in 1 week, they flipped to growth mindset. Now, there's 5 that, we hit the immersive program and they dug in their heels. They're not moving. They're holding on to that fixed mindset. And we give them a choice. Say, this is going to be really, really painful for you.
Yeah.
What is your pain threshold? If it's high, you might be able to get through this. But if it's not, then you're probably, you're not on a path to success. It's going to wreck your health. And 9 times out of 10, we're right. So, we won't say it's a necessary requirement, but when we tested you guys answered 180 questions on that mindset assessment. Half of those questions were mindset questions. Half. 90 of them. Is that right? No. It was, 60 of those questions.
Is it a personality test?
Yeah, that was the first assessment you did.
Yeah.
60 of those questions, 25% of those questions, or 33% of those, 1/3 of those questions were mindset questions. And why were they mindset questions? Because it's really important that we separate the ones that have fixed mindset from the ones that have growth mindset. Now, we let in some of you guys who had fixed mindset. Why? Because we know that we can change this. Actually, we can't change it. You can change it. You can see the value at some point. So some of you who are sitting here today have fixed mindset. But now you have, knowing what you know, now you have the ability, the option to choose a different way of thinking about the world, a different way of thinking about your intelligence. And that choice will ultimately make you a very successful programmer. Is that clear? Okay, that's it. Short talk today.
It was very deep though.
Very deep.
Felt like longer than it was.
Okay. Well, look. I know you guys are really pressed for time, but there are some. Dweck has got like 2 really good TED Talks. They're like 10 minutes each. So I'd invite you guys to watch those. I mean, she talks about some of her research, and she makes it probably does a much better job of explaining the benefits than I do. So I'll post a couple links on Slack. All right.
Okay.
Any questions?
What about artists there, or the actors, whatever? From the talent itself. Some people, they're more with the talent. This is that too.
Well, okay, so that's kind of another issue. Ability, natural ability. How much of our success hinges upon natural ability?
Some of it. Just
Some.
not.
Not all of it, but some, for sure. Some of that's combined with luck.
Yeah.
True.
Bill Gates happened to be in the one school in Seattle that had a computer lab. He also had an aptitude or sort of a natural ability for making sense of logic and stuff like that. Those 2 things combined took him to the next level. And that level, he was able to bounce to the next level. So, yes, there is natural ability. There's also this thing called intuition, which sort of can be more powerful than natural ability. Right? There's also, you've heard me talk about pain threshold. Just grit. You guys all did a grit test. That was the free code camp thing. So sometimes you can have a lot, and we've probably known people like that. They were just natural football stars, right? But they didn't have any motivation. They were so good, they could have been brilliant. But they just didn't have the motivation to get out there on the field and practice. I was a competitive distance runner in high school. I found out that I had some natural ability when I was a junior. 11th grade. Never thought I had it, but I discovered it. It was a lot of hard, and then I piled on the hard work, and that, that's paid off my senior year, and I got a scholarship, a running scholarship, paid for part of my college. So I'm an example of somebody who knows how, if you have some natural ability and you exploit it, right? You can go far, but there's a lot of different reasons why we succeed. Natural ability is one, intuition is another, luck is another. Just being at the right place at the right time. Perseverance, grit. These are all factors of success. Actually, we have another lecture on that, I think. Success factors. So we'll talk about that at some point. Other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns, good jokes,
Jokes.
puppet shows. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.